Protecting the rights of men who may have fathered a child. We'll have details. What Norfolk citizens need to know when reporting a suspicious activity, and how the challenges of midlife have brought a group of like-minded women together to learn and have fun. The forum begins now. If you believe you have fathered a child and wish to be part of his or her life, the Virginia Putative Registry may be the place to begin. Tracy Jones, Adoption Program Manager for the Virginia Department of Social Services, and Shanice Nordstrom, Family Services Worker with Foster Care and Adoptions at Norfolk Human Services, offer good information for prospective foster adoptive parents as well as potential dads. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is a topic that not a lot of people talk about, and I don't know that many people know what putative means. So, Tracy, why don't we start with what is a putative registry?
Well, basically, there are almost all the states in the country have some form of putative father registry, which offers an opportunity for fathers who may have fathered a child with a woman but was not aware, and prevents the mother from placing the child for adoption without his knowledge. So agencies and attorneys are required to check the registry to see if a father has registered. And how that process works: if a father believes he's fathered a child, then he needs to register with the registry. Hopefully within 10 days prior to or within 10 days after the birth of the child. And therefore, when a child may come into care, because now with the new legislation, within 30 days of a child coming into foster care and there's an unknown father, local agencies within the state of Virginia have to check the putative father registry to see if there is a father listed for that particular child or with that mom's name. Okay. And then also, prior to a final order of adoption or petition for adoption, attorneys and local agencies must also check the registry prior to moving forward, so then a father could be notified in the event that his child is being placed without his knowledge.
Okay, so this would give the father an opportunity to say, I want to get involved, or I do not.
Correct.
But it does apprise them of their rights before. You mentioned there was a period of time prior to or after the birth of this child that would be a time for someone to sign up in the registry. But if a child's in foster care already and that it's been checked and there was no name found, but that can change, so the father does have other options.
Later on, yes,
okay.
there is a provision for that.
Okay. All right. I know that complicates things for foster care and adoptions, but we still have a very dire need, and I think all localities can agree with providing homes for children who have, for whatever reason, whether it's being removed because of safety issues temporarily with hopes of reuniting with the biological family, or with placing a child in a safe environment with the goal of perhaps joining that child with an adoptive family. Mm-hmm. We have people who really need to step up and
yes.
become involved and provide this kind of home environment that's very, very important to the continuity in a child's life and that stability. Mm-hmm. And the Department of Human Services certainly is one of many agencies throughout the state that have that has a need.
Yes.
So if people were interested in looking into foster care, providing foster care mm-hmm. to children of any age, that would be infants through teens, mm-hmm. Who would they call? What would they need to do?
They can contact me personally. I can be reached at 757-664-6059.
Okay.
And you would just call. We would ask a little bit of information about the composition of the home. Okay. And from there, they would come to an informational session where they can ask all the questions they would like to know about foster care and adoptions and get all the information they need to know before moving forward. Okay. And from there, they would apply, and then we would go through and service training. It's a pre-service training, actually, 27 hours. And from there, we would do all the checks, make sure that the home meets standards, state standards and requirements, and
Yeah, so it's a process.
It is a process.
But that gives you a little bit of an idea of what you might expect if you were interested in inquiring about becoming a foster parent or perhaps an adoptive parent. The phone number is up on the screen for information about the information session, as well as the date for the next one, which is July 11th.
Yep.
And so give them a call, find out what you need to do, and certainly then you can attend this information session and decide from that point forward whether you feel you're a good fit or if you are a good fit by the standards of the agency. So thank you. And Tracy, with the Putative Father Registry, these sound like they are related to some degree, but they're also separately very important in their own right. The promotion of the Putative Father Registry is being done online, and there is a phone number to call. I don't know if we can put that up on the screen right now, but I believe we can, so that people can check into how they can find out more.
Correct.
About the Putative Father Registry. And also, there is a game coming up with Norfolk Tides, and they're playing the Toledo Mud Hens, and that's June 28th, right, at Harbor Park.
Yep.
So VDSS is going to be there, is that right?
Correct.
Right.
We have an awesome opportunity to partner with the Norfolk Department of Human Services in promotion of our Father's Day celebration, which the Tides graciously offered June 28th.
Okay.
And at that same time, we'll be promoting the Putative Father Registry. So there'll be people out there, myself and a few other state staff out there to promote and educate men about the registry and provide additional information. We have brochures and some promotional items to pass out, as well as Norfolk having, NDHS having a recruitment table there for families. So a double opportunity to partner and collaborate at an audience where there will be men as well as families to promote the registry, as well as recruitment opportunity for the Norfolk Department of Human Services.
Okay, great. And Janice, I know you're going to be one of the people that will be at that recruitment table, located on the main concourse. I think it's near Third Base. And does the Virginia Department of Social Services have a resource table as well? And where is that?
No, it will just be NDHS, Norfolk Department of Human Services,
Okay.
have a resource table. Our role is a promotion of the registry. We'll have a table with items for promoting the registry.
Okay. Okay, great. So look for those if you go to the game. Should be a fun game anyway, since it'll be on a Sunday afternoon. Game time is at 1:05 p.m. We also have some adoptive families. Some members are going to be throwing out the first pitch, and there will be other activities throughout the game. So it's always a good time for families.
Our adoption champion for the state, Debbie Johnston,
Yes.
will be there, and she will be giving a public service announcement about recruitment and awareness of foster and adoptive families in Virginia.
Okay, great. So if you want to learn more, have some fun doing it. Come to the game. And also you can certainly give our foster and adoptive parenting team a call and find out more about becoming adoptive or foster parents. And we thank you very much for this information. It's a lot, and Putative Registry is not something that you're going to find in a lot of cocktail parties, but that conversation needs to be had.
Yes, it does.
All right. Thanks, both of you.
Thank
for
you.
joining me. When should you call 911? What if the situation is not a life or death emergency? Hear from 911, Norfolk Police, and Child Protective Services when we come back.
Raymond, look at mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry.
Maybe he can't hear us.
Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Suppose you've observed a suspicious-looking activity or person in your neighborhood, or you're worried about your grandbaby's living conditions. Who do you call? Chief Training Officer Diane McDermott, 911, PIO Daniel Hudson, Norfolk Police Department, and Ronald Williams, Supervisor, Norfolk Child Protective Services, can offer some guidelines for citizens who call in a report. And you get reports a lot. All of you know this in each of your respective areas, and people often will go to 911 for lack of knowing who else to call, even if it may not be a 911 call as you define it. Diane, what is 911 and how does that stand out from everything else?
Typically 911 we ask our citizens to use to report life-threatening emergencies, anything that's in progress that has the potential to hurt or cause severe property damage. We ask our citizens to call that number and report those things quickly.
Okay.
It comes directly in. We can screen the calls, pass the information off to our field personnel, and have field units respond as soon as possible.
Okay, so that really requires very quick action, and it also requires information to be quickly exchanged between the person calling in and the person receiving the call. So what kind of information would be the most common and most important to provide if you were calling in?
The most critical information that we need for any event that occurs in the city of Norfolk is actually where it is occurring at, followed by what's going on. With that information, my staff is trained to ask a series of questions, and based on those questions and answer period, we relay the information to our field personnel, which will help prioritize the event.
Okay, great. And up on the screen we have a list of some of the things that you would be helpful to provide, a type of emergency assistance needed, of course, and why, location, time, because it could have just happened, or maybe they just got to a phone. There may be descriptions of people and persons and
Correct.
what have you that would be important for people to look at. And if you go online, you can actually see there's a diagram that shows you what to look for in terms of describing people, which can be very helpful because you may not look at the world the same way after you look at this chart. When to call it, of course, is life or death or life-threatening, and this is police, fire, or paramedics.
Correct.
So if it's happening to you, happening to somebody near you, you see something happening, this is the time to call it. But there are other times where you see something happening, but nothing has really, you think you're seeing something happening or about to happen, you're not sure, you're uneasy. You can call 911, but there are also some other options you can try, and that's the non-emergency line.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the non-emergency line is something that, as a police officer, you probably have dealt with that and 911, and there is a distinction, but it isn't necessarily a distinction you make right up front.
Correct. And what we tell people is if they do not remember the non-emergency number, they always remember 911.
Yeah.
Just to trust their instinct. If they see something that doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right, it doesn't feel right, that gut instinct, then they need to call us, because that's what we're here for, is to respond to those suspicious situations. Okay. So whether it's the non-emergency number or 911, just call the dispatcher so we can respond out there. And what we'd like to inform people is that we want everybody to be safe. Don't put yourself in harm's way when you're trying to give us the information. But the more information that you provide to our dispatchers, the safer that we can be when we respond there. Right. And when we get there, we know exactly where we're going. So the way we train our recruits in our academy is to always describe somebody from the top down, meaning start from the hair, whether they're a hat or glasses, and then go down to the shirt. Then if they have anything around their belt, their pants, their shoes. So if you just remember starting from the top down instead of, well, he had white shoes or he had black hair. Jumping around just kind of ruins the eye movement for you and keep it flowing relatively quickly. So the more information that you provide to the dispatchers, the better off we are when we respond to a scene.
Okay, great. Then getting back to non-emergency line, people call that because they do know about it. They will call and provide some information, and this may be acted on quickly or it may not be, because there's a way to determine, there's a screening method that is used.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. There is a
Mm-hmm.
screening method. Again, it's based on questions and answers my staff are trained to ask, based on criteria that we've worked very closely with the police department to develop.
Okay.
Based on those questions and answers, it will fit into probably one of about 200 and so event types. And then those event types are prioritized based on responses and things of that nature.
Okay. One of the things that is often asked, and this is true of Child Protective Services, and we haven't forgotten you, Ron, is that leaving a phone number or providing one is always helpful. It doesn't mean that you have to provide your name or that your name will be used down the road, that you can remain anonymous, but if there's an additional question that needs to be answered, you can get in touch with that person.
Yes, ma'am. We try to ask everything that we possibly can. However, the officer that's responding may be familiar with that situation, the address, and may need some additional information. So they ask us to call back, which is why it's important that we try to get callback numbers for each citizen that calls in.
And basically not assuming that there's going to be some caller ID with a number that's going to reach the person who called in.
That's correct.
Right, so that's important. So these are real basic things, but if people are in a certain state of mind, they may not remember that that's it. But this is at least a way to kind of prompt you to think about what you're going to say and what can be most useful when you do make that critical call, or a call that may lead to something that is actually 911, because they can call either line and it can end up being one or the other, depending.
That's correct. And the same questions will be asked on the non-emergency line as they're asked on the 911 line, just to make sure that we're covering all our bases. Again, our goal in emergency preparedness and response is to maintain the life and safety of not only our citizens in the city and our visitors, but also our field personnel that we support and their mission as well.
So it's more than just exchanging information. It's about lives on the line.
Correct.
Somebody that you're calling in about, as well as the people who are responding.
Yes.
No, hugely important. And with Child Protective Services, Ron Williams can tell us a little bit about what takes place when somebody calls our hotline with Norfolk. There are people who answer those phones. We do have a team that actually works those lines throughout the week.
Yes, we have a team. They are very skilled at interviewing and questioning. I would have to say, as stated before, the more information, the more objective information we can get, the better chance that we have of going out and identifying residences and what our jurisdiction is, and encountering and stopping situations where children might be in danger or at risk of some type of danger.
So this is also a situation where you have to screen these calls, and getting factual information or objective information can often be difficult in any of these cases. When people are calling in, they're generally not in a calm frame of mind, so to tell somebody to be calm when they're upset is hard, but it reduces the amount of time that information needs to be exchanged, which can speed up at least a way to acknowledge what is going on or whether or not it can be pursued. And in Child Protective Services, you have certain laws that you have to work under.
Well, we have very specific criteria that we have to meet. That is the reason for a lot of our questioning. We had to determine whether the situation happened in our jurisdiction. We have the right to go out and investigate and knock on people's doors and ask questions about things. Whether that we are talking about a person who was a caregiver, they had that type of power authority over a child at a time. Whether we're dealing with minors and so forth. So if you cannot be alarmed about the questions that we ask, they are aimed for us to ensure that we are dealing with something that legally fits the definition of abuse and neglect,
right.
Which is important in that we don't decide things. We access the legal system, and the judges make final decisions on removals and things like that.
Okay, so it's the judges that are making those determinations. You're following guidelines to elicit as much information as you can.
Absolutely. Very strict set of guidelines as to what information we have to have, and what we legally can do in situations involving child abuse. Also, it's important to say it matters a great deal that a person with the most direct information is the one that calls us. Sometimes events happen and one person tells another person, the other person calls us, but the other person isn't able to provide us with any of the details that we need in order to understand if we have the right to approach that situation, and or it is a situation that is us versus you really need to be calling the police about this. So we also, CPS begins as an an effort to protect the child in any situation where they're at risk or in danger. But because we have many other services within within our agency, we very much look to connect people with services that helps to restore their functioning if that's an issue, to provide housing and different things that that our agency does. So, CPS might be the way that you enter, the agency, but all things that we do are a possibility from coming in that way. So we very much begin with kids, but we intend to serve the whole family in any way that we can.
Wonderful. And all of you interact, of course, because there are cases that may require the presence of police before
Absolutely.
a CPS worker may come to a home. So a lot of these things are cooperative, and just keep in mind, factual information as factual as possible. Provide your name and a number. You don't have to be identified to everybody that is involved in it, but it can be anonymous. So don't let that stop you, but it's important to get the word out. Thank you very much. I know it's a ton of information and there's a lot more to be said, but thanks for giving us your perspectives on all of this. I learned a lot just listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, who said getting older can't be fun? The Red Hot Mamas show you how when we return.
So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Menopause is a change all women experience sooner or later, and it's a hot topic, pardon the pun. And an international organization formed way back in 1991 has been providing women in midlife education and support. And Lisa Carroll is with Women's Services at Chesapeake Regional Medical Center, and Dr. Peter Kemp is Chief of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and they are present to tell you about the Red Hot Mamas. And he wore a kind of red tie just to be, to acknowledge this, but we don't have any of the hot mamas running around today, but they are at monthly meetings that are held that provide this education and support. So there is a serious side to all of this. Is that true, Dr. Kemp?
That is very true.
Okay. So menopause, of course, most men would know what that is because they complain about it, but the women who are living it often don't even know how to express how they feel and don't maybe understand why they do feel the way they do.
The Red Hot Mamas meet once a month. They meet on the fourth Thursday of the month at the Lifestyle Health and Fitness Center.
Okay, the Lifestyle Health and Fitness Center, and where is that?
That is in Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm sorry. That's at 800 Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake, Virginia.
Now, so far this is the only chapter in Hampton Roads, but there are chapters all across the country.
That is correct. Yeah, but we are very exclusive in this area. We have the only chapter of the Red Hot Mamas at Chesapeake Regional.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty provocative name for a group, so I guess there must be a lot of energy that is exuded in these meetings.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what do you do at these meetings? What do Red Hot Mamas do?
Well, at the beginning of the seminar, we have had one of our lifestyle members has choreographed a dance, a Zumba dance, if you will, for the Red Hot Mamas in Chesapeake Regional Medical Center. So at the beginning of each seminar, we have the physicians get up and dance too, by the way. Okay. We have
what to do.
Yes. So we have all the ladies get up and they dance, and it's high energy and everybody's excited, and it just kind of gets everybody pumped up for the event.
Okay. Yep. They look pumped up in this picture too, and they're having a good time, which of course there's nothing bad about having a good time with whoever you're with, but this is really kind of focused on people who share a lot of the same concerns and issues. And
absolutely, yes. A lot of the women in the community have really built up a camaraderie amongst themselves, and they have developed friendships within the community with each other, and then they can kind of, talk with each other and discuss things with each other that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable in another setting.
Okay, right. So every month you meet, you have a speaker or presenter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. And the upcoming meeting will be featuring Dr. Kemp, who has a topic that is near and dear to many a person's heart who is going through this particular part of life, and it's called hot flashes.
Correct.
Yeah, well, great time of year to do it too.
It was like yesterday when it was about 103 heat
That's
index.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. So when a woman's experiencing a hot flash, can you tell me, give me the Cliff Notes version of what
Well,
what
hot
it is?
flashes basically is from menopause. And menopause is a complicated definition if you wish, but if the simplest way of describing it is when a woman's born, they only have a certain amount of eggs in their ovaries. And when that number decreases at a certain point, boom, hot flashes, all the other things happen, which is menopause. It's basically, that's the causation of it.
You're a very brave man to be around a lot of women who are going through this, because this can really involve a lot of mood swings and erratic behavior, or at least it appears to be erratic from somebody else's perspective. And the women that get together are given a chance to express their frustration and their...
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. The meetings are kind of set up to where the physician will give his visual presentation through a PowerPoint, and then it's an open forum for question and answers. And the ladies really seem to like that. That seems to be the highlight of the entire event.
Great. That exchange of information.
Yes.
Open conversation where anybody can ask any question, not be afraid to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, well, it's a relief, I'm sure, because sometimes you don't realize that that person next to you has the same feelings you have about something. It's that way with support groups, I suppose, in general. But so if somebody wanted to find out more about the Red Hot Mamas, they contact the Red Hot Mamas?
Yes, they can look on our, we have a Facebook page. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see the Red Hot Mamas Hampton Roads chapter. Also, you can email marketing at chesapeakeregional.com, and you can get information like that as well.
Okay. Well, Red Hot Mamas International, I guess, has a website too, and you can find out about chapters, or maybe even starting another one in the area, which would be a lot of fun. We certainly have wonderful medical resources throughout the community, and you were just one wonderful example of that. And being able to relate to people who are having a puzzling period in their lives explained in a way that's a little more rational, but in an environment that, as you say, is comfortable, so that they really feel that they can open up and relax and ask the questions they've just been dying to ask. So anyway, thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't give you more airtime.
No problem.
But you can see Dr. Kemp at next month's meeting, so please, make a point of checking him out. And thank you very much for joining me.
No, we're happy to be here.
And thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Bye.